Hey everyone, good morning. It is Saturday, October 25th, 2025. It is the last Saturday in the month of October, and it's October 25th, Saturday, and it is 8:21 a.m. Pacific time, and it is a crisp 54 degrees outside. Um, Before we get into that, I'd like you to do me a solid favor and like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel, and share the video. And also click on the links in the description if you can, if you would like. And those links will send you to areas to find my content elsewhere outside of YouTube. You can find me on all your favorite audio and video podcast affiliates like iTunes, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Audible, Amazon Music, Spotify, Radio Public, SiriusXM to an extent. Anywhere there's a podcast to be found, you will find mine there. And like I said, one of the areas that was much surprising to me this past year is Pandora. You can find me there as well. Um, but like I said, anywhere there's a podcast to be found, you'll probably find mine more than likely. And that includes SiriusXM to an extent. You can also support me and follow me over at rumble.com, odyssey.com, vimo.com, and Dailymotion. Vimo and Rumble is where you can find similar, identical content that you find here on my main YT channel. The only difference is that there is some content that you won't see here on the main YT channel due to certain reasons. So if you would like to check out the Rumble and the Vimo channels, go check those out. I might even be adding some stuff later on to them due to what I've been kind of messing around with when it comes to Sora 2 and Gronk.image. So check those out if you would like. Mostly it's going to be stuff I've been messing around with Gronk.image. Not image, but Imagine. Gronk.imagine. It's mostly going to be stuff from that. So, check those out if you want. Those are other areas you can find my content. Also, you can find me over at deviantart.com at BVW1979, inkbunny.net at BWRosas. You can also find me over at patreon.com at BWRosas. Support me there. I've got plans for the Patreon. And let's just say what I just mentioned about Vimo and Rumble. Let's just say that might be another area where you'll find some content you can't find here on YouTube due to reasons, if you know what I mean. Go check those areas out if you would like. Also, support me over at Venmo and Cash App if you can. It'd be greatly appreciated as well. And check out my two stores. I got my new fourth wall store up. I got some merchandise there I only have one piece of merchandise, and I have more planned in the future. But the one piece of merchandise there, I think you will like. And guys, you can also support me over at over at my Teespring store, my OG Teespring store. Link to that is at the bottom. The fourth wall store link is at the top, but link to the Teespring store is at the bottom. And I have merchandise there you can't get anywhere else, including merchandise based on the Sally Acorn audio vid I did this morning. So if you want to check that out, you'll find something there. Also, if you want to, live chat is going to be open during this video premiere, which means if you want to come in and say hi, give your thoughts and stuff, as the video is happening, that'd be greatly appreciated. And if you want to donate through super chats, that would also be very much appreciated. And guys, if you do not catch this live, during the video premiere, you don't catch the video premiere live, then you can go and check out. Super Thanks if you'd like to donate. In that manner, you can do that by clicking there. Again, if you don't catch this, as it had premiered, and then comments will be open during the live premiere version and afterwards. But with that said, let's get on to the topic at hand here. And we have reached the 76th page of the very zigzag centric Sabrina online story, Stripes and Links, and we're still continuing on. It looks like we're coming close to the end, but we're still continuing on with the conversation between Zigzag and her scumbag father. And the father basically does something here that, well, let's just say the mother is more understanding, if you will, and more accepting of the change than I think anybody gave her credit for. And even the grandparents, are accepting of it. The grandfather we know is, the grandmother, she says she's gonna have to get used to it and everything, but she's accepting of it. And Zigzag, she's cool with any of them, including the mother calling her by her real name, but she's not cool. But she's not cool when he does it, when the father does it, and all that. And she does have to remind them that, hey, she even had to tell Tina Lynx, her bisexual lover who's on this trip with her, she had to say, yeah, but, she had to say, like, yeah, but, that name's the old me, and, I'm using this new name that I have, Zigzag, to move on and, create a better life for me and all that. And basically, that's kind of what she tells the father here, but she tells him in a very, like, defiant, like, she gets up from her chair and just points at him like in a defiant way, like, no, you can't handle the truth kind of deal and all that. But basically the father basically starts out this page by telling her that, this is what the father tells Zigzag, if you will, to start off the 76th page. This is what the father says, and I quote, whether you care or not, I'm pretty, okay, it's early, guys. I do apologize, but let me start again. This is what the father says to Zigzag to start off the 76th page. This is what the father says to start off, and I quote. This is what he says to Zigzag, and I quote. Whether you care or not, I am pretty happy you decided to drop by and see me, Tanya. And right there, that last thing he said when he brought up her real name, you see in the image. Oh, you see in the image. Basically, she just, she starts to get up and everything. She puts her hands like on the bench or on the table on her side of the glass, and she just looks and she just tells him straightforward. This is what Zigzag says in response. She tells him straightforward, "Don't call me that. You don't get to call me that anymore." And then she goes on to tell him, "That name was the old me, the me that lived in fear of you. She's not around anymore." And then she basically makes it clear, and they put it in quotations here. She makes it clear very defiantly, very like, very defiantly, very like, you know, looking your fear in the face kind of deal and conquering it kind of matter. She says, "I'm Zigzag now, the me that thrives not because of you, but in spite of you, and you will address me as such." And then the father, they put these little dots there, like kind of like a sigh deal. And it's like he's just going like, like whatever you say, whatever you say. And the father's like, but I might go with "Hey you" for a while, because the father basically, he'll explain in his own way later on. He'll explain, later on as to why he feels like, this doesn't, it doesn't make sense for her to go and use the Zigzag name, or to go and rename herself legally into Zigzag. But the father basically, his response is, whatever you say, but I might go with "Hey you" for a while. And then the father's explanation, the father's reasoning and explanation as to why he might just go with like "Hey you," or instead of just Zigzag. This is what he says, and I quote. This is the father's reasoning or explanation. He says, "Can't say I get it though. Wasn't that one of the names that the other kids would tease you with, or used to tease you?" And Zigzag's like, "Maybe, but I took it for myself." And then she's like, "I removed the insult from it, and I take the power back. From them, from you, from everyone." And then the father's like, "It's not really much of an insult, though." And you know what? It may not be. It may not be. And that's kind of how that's kind of, we kind of end the page here, or we end the 76th page. But yeah, it's interesting, very, very, I guess you could say developing here, because, She's telling the father, look, you know, you don't get to call me, you don't get to call me by my real name anymore, or my former real name. You know, she's basically telling him, look, Tanya, that was the old me. That was the one that lived in fear of you. She's not around anymore. And then for her to say, my name is, well, she basically says, I'm Zigzag now. The me that thrives not because of you, but in spite of you, and you will address me as such. And then the father basically, having that sigh, having a bit of a sigh and going like, yeah, whatever you say, but I might, go with hey you for a while. And the father, again, he's a scumbag. You can see that because, he's just sighing about it and not, really taking it into consideration that out of respect, hey, this is who she wants to be now, so you need to accept that. You need to let her be, you need to let her be the her that she's chosen to be to, to move on from the past life or her past life, where, in her home where she's at right now, where she's visiting right now. Now, the father, you might say, that you kind of you might say that you kind of get what the father is saying when he says he can't say he gets it though, because him bringing up that wasn't that one of the names the kids would use to tease you, and that is a good question. Anybody would ask, like, why would you um why would you take that name on, or take that name for yourself, a name that the kids would tease you with back when you were younger, back in school, back, back on the block. Like, why would you do that? And Zigzag's explanation is a good one because if there's anything any of us know about in school, whether it's elementary slash grade school, middle slash junior high school, or high school, and even college, if there's one thing we know about is that when you're given a nickname, it's for reasons, and they don't mean it as an insult. It's something that happens that, unbeknownst to you, you bring onto yourself. For example, with me personally, there was a moment back in my freshman year in Oskaloosa High School, in Oskaloosa, Kansas. There was a moment where I was trying out for the basketball team and everything, and this was at a time when and this was like the last year I think that they were going the old school route of, hey, you need to pass all your classes to participate in sports and stuff, because they kind of lifted that, thankfully. I don't know if they reverted back or, lifted it even more, made it more easier or something. I don't know. But anyway, I remember just sitting down at practice because I couldn't participate, and I did something that basically was, you know, I was I was just, so focused on the practice, to support my team and everything that I wasn't even aware I had done it, if you will. But let's just say let's just say a certain part of my bottom region, if you will, frontal bottom region, stuck out, and of course, being 15 and all that, you're going through these puberty years and everything that start with, like, when you're like what, 12, 13, and you're still going to them about 16, 17, 18. I think it's mostly 16 or 17. If you're a late bloomer, or you still got a lot more to go, because they even say they even say that uh, when you hit 16 or 17 or 18, you're not done growing. And that is the truth. That is the truth. But still, anyway, something happened to a certain part of my frontal bottom region, if you will. Frontal bottom region was sticking out, and basically that got me embarrassed, of course. And again, I wasn't aware of it because I was focused on the team practicing and supporting them and all that. And from then on in, they gave me the nickname of Nuts, Nutz, and I'm like, okay, it's not a big deal. I mean, at first I was like, I don't like it, but over time I realized that everybody in school, because of something they did, either it was, cool or embarrassing or somewhere in between, they would be given a nickname, and even though at first they may not like it, they later on embraced it and realized, hey, it's just their way of, welcoming you into the fold, officially, kind of saying, hey, you're now one of us. You're now part of our class, our family class, if you will. And that's what my class, the class of '98, was like. We were like a family, always there for each other. But yeah, but that was it. But yeah, that one moment was kind of embarrassing. But over time, I learned to embrace it and just accept it as my own. Accept it as my own. And they even still called me that afterwards. Like one time, I went out to Christmas lunch or something like that. Well, not Christmas lunch, but Christmas dinner with my friends. All of us were living in Lawrence. I think it was in 2000. And one of my friends was like, "No," they came to pick me up because I don't drive. They're like, "No," and I was like, "Hey, what's up?" The thing is, I may have not liked it at first, but I embraced it. I'm like, yeah, it's going to be it's part of my high school history. And there's not much you're going to do about it. And it's just something that, throughout life, throughout life and your various reunions and all that, you're going to have to be accustomed to. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that go to the various high school, college reunions or high school reunions, if you will, and they'll get called by a name that they were given, a nickname they were given in high school that they at first may have not liked, but then like, yeah, it's growing on me. I'll accept it, if you will, because you realize, hey, you brought that on yourself. You got no one but yourself to you blame. You know what I mean? But anyway, but anyway, the reason I bring that up here is because that's what she's saying. But she said, because what she's saying here to the father is, she's taking what was looked at as a negative back when she was younger, and she's turned it into a positive. Like, okay, people wanted to call me Zigzag. I'm gonna, they wanted to use that to tease me, to try to insult me, and all that because of her design, right? Her being half skunk and half tiger. You know, she's basically saying here, fine. Oh, she's basically telling the father here, hey, what I did is I took what you thought was a teasing insult by those kids to me. I took that and I embraced it. I accepted it. I made it my own, and I turned it from a negative to a positive. And you can see that. You can't. She basically says it herself. She says, I removed the insult from it, and I made it. Okay, this is what she says. Because again, this is what she says in response to it. She says, I remove the insult from it, and I take the power back from them, from you, from everyone. And and then the father's response is, it's not really much of an insult, though. You know, and look, he does in a way he does have a point that people calling you a name isn't really much of an insult. It's just like, hey, it's like I mentioned, it's like something you bring upon yourself because of something you did, and everything like what I mentioned, what happened with me. Um, but him saying that, again, you would agree that yeah, it doesn't sound like it'd be much of an insult, but think about it from Zigzag's perspective as a kid. You're born the way you are and everything, and people don't, and other kids, don't understand that, you that the reason you are the way you are is because you're part tiger. That tiger in you, so that's why you have your stripes. You're part skunk. That's why your tail and other features are the way they are. And Tanya, and not Tanya, but what Zigzag is saying is, she's like, look, I took what I would look at as an insult back then to me as a kid, and I'm embracing it as a positive, and I'm using it to take back the power that they tried to take away from me, away from me, that you tried to take away from me, that anybody else that's tried to make my life hell away from, make my life hell, I'm using the Zigzag name, to take all that back, for me, for those I care about and everything, and all that. And that's cool. That's a good message of, hey, take the negative that was thrust upon you that you thought as a kid was an insult, and say, hey, I'm not looking at it as an insult anymore. I'm looking at it as a positive. I'm looking at it as, as a driving force to take back what you tried to take from me. Take back that control. Take back that power. Take back that fear and everything, and conquer it all, and do it, and make it a driving force for good in my life and in the lives I will consider my friends and family. So I like that. I do like that message here by Zigzag, and it's a good one that I think all of us can, relate with. You either it's either, it's either basically, um, it's a message of either, take the insult and everything as is, and and make yourself feel like you're worth nothing, or take what you consider an insult or a tease or a nickname given to you that you might feel is bad, and accept it as a positive. Look at the good that comes out of it and all that. And honestly, with me, I've made, some of the friends that gave me, some of the classmates that gave me that name for that one incident back during my freshman year of high school, they have gone on to be some of my closest friends even to this day. They've gone on to be some of my closest friends even to this day. So so to me, you know, I understand where she's coming from. Reading this, I understand where she's coming from. And hey, you either just look at it as an insult, as a, making fun of you and all that, or you accept it as a positive. You accept it as, you know, yeah, you brought it on yourself because of what you did or how you look, but you can either run from it or learn from it. Just like, let's say, Rafiki, tells Simba in Lion King. So honestly, that's what she did. She's not running from it. She's learning from it, and she's embracing it and using it as a positive, as a force for good and everything. And she says, taking the power back from them, from her father, and from anyone else that's made her life a living hell in the past. So that's a good message to me. That's a really, really good message. And yeah, overall, the 76 page I thought was great. Not much, revealing wise as the previous 75th page, but I like it. I do like the idea that we do get an explanation from Zigzag as to why, she changed her name legally from her birth name Tanya to now Zigzag. We now get that full explanation and everything, and it comes at, and it comes, of course, courtesy of her visiting the father probably for the last time ever in, their entire lives and all that. So yeah, I think it's good, and can't wait to see what they got planned for page 77 in the following week. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Comment down below if you didn't do so in the live chat. Let me know what you think about this development in the story. And until next time, guys, as I said at the beginning, like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and click on the links in the description to find my content elsewhere outside of YouTube and to support me elsewhere as well. And again, guys, super thanks will be open after this premiere, after the video's premiere ends in just a bit. If you didn't get a chance to do a super chat or anything like that, if you wanted to, during the live chat. But guys, that's all I'm gonna say. Again, let me know what your thoughts are, and until then, I'm out.